Hello and welcome back to my small little library. Today we're gonna talk about the books I've read in July. And there were quite a few, mostly because I read quite a few graphic novels. At the beginning of the month I was really in the mood for like some shorter reads. And to be honest, the month felt so long that I barely remember what I read throughout the month. So yeah, let's start in the beginning. We are starting, like so often, with a bad horror book, which seems to be a theme on this channel. The book box I bought on eBay that contained all of these horror books really wasn't like good books. I don't know why they sold them for so cheap. But yeah, the first book I've read in July was Since You've Been Gone by Carleen Thompson, and I found this book to be really, really just like comical kind of. We have our main character who's called Rebecca, and she had some kind of clairvoyancy when it came to crimes, and she helped solve some crimes in the small town she lived in. But then she couldn't solve the crime of her brother getting kidnapped and killed, so she more or less fled because she felt horrible that she couldn't help her parents in their greatest need. And so she kind of tried to bury the feelings she had and the premonitions. And then she comes back because her aunt has cancer and she wants to see her aunt. And when she comes back, her cousin's or friend's son gets kidnapped and she has a premonition. And that brings her back in. But what was the weird thing in all of this was that just everybody behaves as if nothing has happened. Like, they still celebrate birthdays, there's barely a search party, there isn't enough done to find the child, and then you have the pretty obvious like who's done it was so obvious from the beginning, because you have so many cliche characters in this book. Yeah, it just really wasn't a joy to read, to be honest. I found it boring and weird how everybody behaved, and then the characters were so over the top cliches. It just wasn't the most exciting book to read, so I gave it 2 stars. It's a horror book. I don't know, it wasn't really like horror. It felt more like a mystery thriller-ish kind of book, but also, just like people doing normal stuff, continuing like, oh, just sleep in, you don't have to help, even though probably the whole town should be helping to find him, because it's like a really, really small town. And yes, it was just weird. And yeah, then the next few books were some graphic novels. I read Horizon Zero Dawn, the issue 0, issue 1, and then I think issue 2 and issue 3, which are all from the first volume, but my library only had it in issues and not in volumes, so it was a little bit confusing for me. I gave all of them 4 stars. I didn't read them one after the other, but like, I'm gonna just compound them together for the review. But yeah, I gave all of them 4 stars. I really enjoyed them. I really liked the art style, and I liked it that they kind of explained the story of one of the more like side characters in the game that I really enjoyed. She's the Sunhawk. If you've played the game, she's the Sunhawk at some point in the story, and yeah, it was really nice to read part of the story, how she and her friend that you also get to know in the story, because it's a side quest, you kind of get to know what happened between like seeing her last in-game and then starting in the side quest. That is pretty much what you get in the first volume, it seems, and I really enjoyed it. I find it really, really nice. It was just way too short, which is a problem I have with pretty much all graphic novels. I just wish they would always come in like these really, really long things, which is I think why I enjoyed Sandman so much, because I have the 3 big volumes. But yeah, so that was why I gave it 4 stars. Other than that, great art style, great story, I really enjoyed it. And then I also read another graphic novel, which is called Garlic and the Vampire, which was so cute. I really, really enjoyed the art style in that one. It's pretty much, our main character is Garlic. He lives in a garden from a witch who grows vegetables, and some of these vegetables are like their own characters and they help out in the village and stuff. And then there is this castle, and a vampire goes into the castle, and all of the other vegetables are like, oh, you have to go, Garlic. Like, there's one who like pretty much mostly says that, but the other ones are also like, oh, you are Garlic, vampires don't like garlic, so go. And be sure that he can't hurt us, and the humans we deliver vegetables to. And so that is the story of Garlic and the Vampire. It was really cute. I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed it. Would read again. It was really just like this cutesy little story with a happy ending. It's not really dramatic, and it was really short. But I really like the art style and the idea behind the story, that you have all of these vegetables and it isn't the witch who goes to the vampire, but like the garlic itself. It was kind of funny. Then I listened to an audiobook called Tiny Traumas by Meg Arrow, and I gave it 3 stars because it was informative, but I pretty much knew all of that already. I felt like the book didn't go into enough details. Like it felt like a really surface level book, which if I listen to a scientific non-fiction book, I want to like a deep dive, something that I can't find out like for googling for 5 minutes, you know. And I felt like the book wasn't deep enough, and so it wasn't helpful enough, even though it does give you like a brief overview how tiny traumas work and how they can impact your everyday life and stuff like that. So if you don't know anything about it, it would be something I would recommend, but like if you have already like a basic knowledge about it, it doesn't really give you anything more. After that, I read a book I was so disappointed about that I didn't like it, and that is Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson. I read it because I saw it recommended in oh, I forgot the name again. The Kaju Preservation Society by John. Oh, I forgot the name. John Scalzi. Ha, that is the name. So yeah, he recommended this book in his afterword from that, and so I picked it up recently, and I was really excited to read it, and I didn't like it. I found it to be really boring. Like, I was promised the metaverse, samurai swords, a hacker who combines that all, and what I got was kind of a teenager / young adult who gets involved in something that goes way over his head, that is connected with a lot of religion, and a lot of this book is just either somebody making a delivery again and again, or we get like a history about Babel and stuff like that, and languages and stuff like that, which both of those I like in concept, but in this story I found them to be really boring. So yeah, I didn't really enjoy it. I thought it should be like a really exciting sci-fi thriller, and I felt like it was more like a sci-fi thrillerino, you know, like a little baby thriller. I felt like, yeah, it I don't know, it didn't have the impact that I wanted it to have, and that made it more boring because I kept waiting for this great thing to happen, and it just didn't, and it didn't, and it didn't, and I was like, where is like this great part of the book? And it just never came. So yeah, sadly I only gave it 2 stars. But yeah, there isn't nearly as much sword fighting in there that I wanted. I mean, if you tell me the main character, you know, is a hacker and he goes around with his samurai swords, I want him to fight other people, and that doesn't really happen that much in the book. So yeah, you know, could have been better. yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't the sci-fi book for me. I feel like I need more adventure in my sci-fi. Then I picked up the next Clive Cussler book. It's the next novel in the Numa Files, Fire and Ice, and it is from the Kurt Austin adventure line, which I think there are at least 2 adventure lines. Yeah, this is pretty standard Clive Cussler. It is, as all of the others are, America against Russian. There's pretty much a mining baron in Russia who says like he's the offspring of like the Romanovs, and he wants to have like kind of this uprising and get the might. And to do that, he wants to kind of distract the USA, so he tries some technology to make tidal waves to attack the coastal cities in America without like having an obvious cause, and Austin is like investigating everything. So yeah, pretty normal Numa Files. We have America against Russia, and our main character is with Numa, and he investigates all of the things that are happening underwater and stuff like that. I gave it 3 stars. I find these to be rather average. I I don't know, I don't love politics, which is why I think this series will never be a favorite of mine, but I own so many. So yeah, I'm slowly reading through them. They are fine, I feel like, for an adventurous thriller kind of, if you are okay with all pretty much it being the same motive again and again and again, that you have Russia against America. I don't know, I feel like it gets kind of boring after some time. But you know, if you like that, and if that is a topic you enjoy in books, read Clive Cussler. I mean, they are interesting stories, but if you like take the stories for themselves, like with interesting technology and underwater stuff. But in general, I find it to be a little bit tiring to read again. America against Russia again and again and again. Then we had another 3-star read, and that is a Brandon Sanderson book, which I sadly didn't love. That is Warbreaker. I like the magic system in this. It is based on colors and human souls, which was really, really interesting. I really liked that, but the rest of the book I felt to be a little bit boring. And there's a lot of politics, and as always, I don't enjoy a lot of politics. But I felt like there wasn't enough action. The action started really, really late in the book, and I had a really, really hard time to get through the first half of the book, which then soured my enjoyment of the second half kind of a little bit. Because it's not a skinny book, you know, it's quite the hefty book. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed. Probably won't be my favorite by him, because I gave it 3 stars. But yeah, I think it's still a good book. If you want like an alternative magic system, definitely go for it. Read it if you haven't yet. But I didn't think it was something special. Like, Brandon Sanderson has so many amazing books that this one for me wasn't, because it, I don't know, you know, in The Hero of Ages, I just loved the characters like straight from the beginning. But with that one, I was really neutral towards the characters, which I think didn't help me enjoying the story. Then we finally have another 4-star read, and that was Catching Fire, because I still haven't read the Hunger Games series. So I read the second Hunger Games book, which, you know, I think the story is great. I didn't need it. I pretty much loved the first one as like standalone, but obviously there's a lot more to tell. So yeah, I read the second one. I liked it, the story. I think it's a good continuation. It makes sense how it continues. My biggest problem is the relationship between Peter and I have forgotten his name, and Katniss. I don't like that constellation, because a lot of the drama and miscommunication in the book is based on those 3, and I know that it is there to like help the story along, but I don't enjoy that fact, so that always tempers my excitement a little bit, because I get annoyed at the fact. So yeah, I give it 4 stars. It's a good book, you know. I mean, we don't really have to discuss that, you know. I think everybody has read it already, and I'm so late to the party. But yeah, it's enjoyable. I like the concept. I feel like it goes in the only possible direction, actually, the only sensible direction. But yeah, why do we need to have triple relationships and drama because of that? I feel like it's just a book trope I'm really tired about. Then we have another 3-star read, one that I, even though I gave it 3 stars, would really, really recommend, and that is Goddess of the River by Vaishnavi Patel, which I still don't know how to pronounce correctly. This is a retelling, like a loose retelling of an Indian myth, which I have forgotten the name of. Again, I also can't pronounce the word out of my mind, you know. But yeah, it's a really interesting myth. It is not a topic I enjoy, like story-wise, but I felt like it was a really, really nice retelling. I like to get to know in the mythology and all of that, you know, that comes with that. But in the end, it's primarily a story about a woman who was a goddess as a river, like she was a river goddess, but she was kind of the river, and then because of curse, she gets to be a human woman, and some other godlings like get transformed, so she has to like have them as children, kind of, and her husband is the king of one of the, like, a kingdom there, and he wants an heir, and so she has this problem with like, oh, I need to birth these godlings, but he can't know that, and he wants a son, so I kind of also need to birth him a child, so I need to birth like a lot of children. And that is the story of that pretty much. I don't love the topic, that is just the main problem, but I think with myths that is something, you know, that happens. You can't love every myth, but I love the way it was retold. I think the writing style is really, really nice. I really enjoyed that, and yeah, I think if you are interested in myth like that, do pick it up. I think for that it is fantastic. It's just not something I gravitate towards story-wise, so yeah, I kind of didn't love it, but it was really interesting. Then we have another 2-star read, which this book kind of made me a little bit angry. Yeah, it's Hummingbird Salamander by Jeff Vandermeer, and I didn't like it. The whole story is just nonsense because of the ending of the book. The ending of the book pretty much shows you that everything that happened in the book was totally unnecessary. The book didn't need to happen, and that made me so angry in the end that I was just so annoyed. And pretty much the book is about a woman who, she has 2 children and a husband. She works in cybersecurity, and she works for one of those firms that with unsavory tactics finds or creates safety concerns in companies, and then they close those, you know, for a lot of money. And that is her job, and at some point she gets handed a note in a package from a barista, and in there is a hummingbird and a note that says Hummingbird Salamander and like 3 points in between that, and that kind of makes her spiral, and her whole life flows out of control. She loses all control of her life, totally unnecessary. She could have just in her free time investigated this, but she stops going to work. She brings stuff to the gym, and then the gym gets broken into, her house gets surveilled and stuff like that. Like, she really ruins her own life in the end, to be told like, oh, you didn't even need to be here. It has something to do with like eco-terrorism and what happens when everything dies on our planet, stuff like that. Yeah, I don't enjoy it. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I think it's like one of the most insensible things I've ever read. It just, you know, when you come to the end of the book, you want to hear that the main character did something, and you don't want to come to the end of the book and the end of the book is like, yeah, you didn't need to be here. Like, the whole journey was just, you know, everything would have happened, like everything that happens after the ending of the book would have happened with or without her there. So why did we read the book? I don't know. I can't tell you. I didn't enjoy it. It made me angry. I kind of ranted about it to my partner for quite a while. And then we have the last book, which was on my TBR for next month, but you know, I started a little bit early, and that is Stephen King's The Drawing of the Three, which is the second part in the Dark Tower series, and I gave it 3 stars. I listened to the audiobook, which was fantastic. The audiobook is really, really good. And this is just a filler book to pretty much get the gang together for the books that come after it, which is mainly why I gave it 3 stars. And also, it's like really, really weirdly different from the first one. The first one is like really westerny. The second one is like in racist America and in like drug-filled America, and there he gets his companions from. Like, he gets one drug mule to help him, and then a woman who has 2 personalities inside of her, which like plays kind of a big role. And yeah, it's a really weird story, and it's obviously a filler to get to the next book, and I don't know how much I love that, even though the audiobook really was enjoyable. It's just that I in general didn't love the story. I get what the book is for, but I don't love these filler books. I feel like you could have made this part like 100 pages long and then put it onto another book. Like, the first book is really, really short. You could have just, you know, put that onto the first book, and all would have been good. I don't think you would have needed like a complete book for what the book is giving me, you know. But yeah, those are all of the books and graphic novels I've read in July. Hopefully August will go equally well. I didn't you know, I'm not reading any books I love at the moment. I kind of like am mostly around the 3-star mark, but I'm getting through a lot of my physical TBR, which is a goal here at the moment, so I'm really happy about that. hopefully, yeah, you enjoyed this video. If you have read any of these books, please leave your opinion on them down below, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.